introductions. We've got a great lineup. But one of those dangerous situations where there are so many Dream Team members here that if I forget any of you in the intro here, do let me know. Just shout at me in the chat. So we are live streaming on YouTube now for the Dream Team session. We have people here over on Zoom as well. Get your questions in right away. You know what happens here. We all kind of quiet and easy going for the first 20, 30 minutes, and then suddenly loads of questions come in and we run out of time. And we will check in with the pets at past. Don't worry about that. So Gilda, good evening to you. Fantastic job over on the previous session and the D7 visa update. You must be very proud of Christina and Beatrice.
Yes, I am. They are amazing.
All right. And they gave us an update about CEF. Not a lot has changed in this last week. Strike action, I think, has calmed down. So the picture is business as usual, nothing remarkable to report about CEF?
Yeah, well, they said everything already.
Okay, excellent stuff. Which is, if you weren't there on that session, biz as usual and strike action seems to have blown over, apart from in Italy. Any questions for the Queen of Visas? She is here tonight on the Dream Team panel. Along the corridor, I believe sometimes in Lisbon there, Daniel Reis from Reis and Pelicano. Good evening to you, Daniel. How are you this evening?
Hello, good evening, and quite all right. What about yourself?
Pretty good. Yeah, very good indeed. A lovely spring day here on the Silver Coast. How is your weather in Lisbon today?
Quite sunny and warm, so it was a good day to be out and about. Although I had a couple of deeds today, so I was just strolling in the city. Didn't have the opportunity to enjoy the sun as much as I would like, but still quite nice to be out and about.
Work to be done, deeds to be signed or overseen there. That's the work you do, isn't it? You're our lawyer in Lisbon, you're our legal man. So any questions about the law here in Portugal, Daniel's the man who we can address those with. We also have Peter van Nuenen in a remarkable piece of architecture behind him there, I think in central Portugal this evening. How are you, Peter?
Hey, hello, Carl. Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Very good. I'm delighted to see you. Tell us more about this lovely property of yours.
Yeah, this is a quinta that we are in Pedrógão Grande. It's about half an hour south of Coimbra, in the lovely hills of central Portugal. So we are a bit outside of the town of Pedrógão, which is very nice. Very nice spring weather today, so we have worked a bit outside in the vineyard, in the garden, and done a lot of other things for clients. So yeah, we are a week here and then another week in Lisbon. So it's a lot of traveling throughout the country.
Fantastic.
Which we love.
Yeah, of course. Living the dream here in Portugal, country home and city home in Lisbon. And you help people find properties and live that dream life as well at the Portugal company. So anything to do with being a buyer's agent, locating property, we found out, or we were reminded how difficult that is in the last webinar. For every property you find and like, there's probably a queue of other people behind you. You can get a bit of an edge, as I said, working with Peter and Elise from the Portugal company. Thank you for being here tonight, Peter. Let's go to the Queen of Currency, Sarah Davey. Good evening to you.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going? Please share the benefits of working with Spartan FX tonight. But before you do, how was the weather in London today?
It was nice. The sun's out. It was lovely. It was cold though, still cold. It's not quite spring enough for me.
Not British barbecue weather just yet, with all the Brits getting.
Well, having said that, there'll be people out in shorts and t-shirt at the moment.
maybe it was there over in UK. Fantastic. You're the person to speak to when it comes to changing those dollars into euros. Have you got a little bit of an update from the currency market?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have seen a bit more of movement, certainly for people that are buying euros and selling US dollars, moving them from America. We've heard sort of news out that the US may go into a mild recession later in the year, that's not so good. But the Eurozone, we've seen some better industrial figures, better data basically coming out of the Eurozone, which has helped to strengthen. And it looks like they will be raising interest rates quite aggressively as well, which will be positive, or certainly will help strengthen the euro. The other thing as well is just still always watching in the background what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia with the war. If there's any sort of reversal on that, we may see some more euro strength as well. So we're just keeping an eye on the rates. That's what we do. So please do obviously get in touch. We can help monitor that for you. The main really thing is to bear in mind that don't underestimate these rate movements. So in the last 3 months, the rates fluctuated by about 5%. And if you're buying a property of 250,000 euros, the difference is nearly 14,000 US dollars, and that's within 3 months. So it can really make a difference on basically your budgets, whatever you're working out, how much things are going to cost, whether you're renting a property, whether you're buying a property, whether you're paying for a NIF, whatever you're doing, you're working out your budgets, and we can help manage that basically.
Superb. Excellent to hear that. Thank you for being here. So any other questions about currency exchange? Sarah's here to answer those. And we've got the insurance guys. I referred to him in the last hour. Nuno, good evening to you. Where are you in the world this evening? I know you've been to Porto for lunch today.
Yes. So I need to visit some clients, corporate clients, this week. So I settled to better. I need to visit them, and I just settled to this week because it was Porto's meeting. So this way I had opportunity to meet with the clients and also be with the expats community, which was fun once again. Meet people for the first time that we have handled with their insurances to the D7 process visa, and meet them first time. It's very enjoyable. So excellent. Yeah, I'm in Porto.
You've had you're staying up there, so you've had a good time in Porto.
Yes,
with the Expats Portugal crew up there. Yeah, new program, says Mike T. Where in the world is Nuno? Because you were in Scotland, I think, last week when we spoke. Yeah. Any updates for us from the world of insurance?
Yeah, some updates. Something that is on our DNA, which is filling the gaps. Yes. So I just talked on the previous webinar that we have this insurance that could help on get the lease or to convince the landlord to rent the property, because it's an insurance that guarantees to the landlord to the risk of default. So let's see if this could help the community or not. This is one, and the other one is about filling the gaps of the health insurance. No matter the health insurance, there are some gaps like nursing at home, physiotherapy at home, insurance, home assistance to the landlord to the risk of default. So sorry, I'm hearing myself.
What's happening there?
If this could help the community.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I think that was YouTube. That was you talking to yourself on YouTube. Now, this is when AI becomes ridiculous and we should be scared, right? Sorry about that.
Yeah. So yeah, we are keep filling the gaps to try to help not only the community but also Portuguese customers.
Okay. And this is because there was people who were foreigners couldn't really guarantee, could they? And there was a lack of confidence about somebody coming into the country with no credit record or a way of getting a guarantor sorted out here. And this is an insurance-led approach to bringing confidence to the landlord.
Yes, the biggest problem is about trust, because we have in Portugal plenty of cases that people rent the house and then stop paying rent on the second month, and it's very hard to the landlord to take the control of his house, of his property. And I don't know how this works in other countries, but in Portugal, the landlord just cannot enter on its own house because the tenant are not paying rent anymore. So this is a legal problem in Portugal.
Understood. So that should help with that. And is it a product that's now available? Can you take applications for it?
Yes, Of course.
Perfect. Excellent stuff. All right. And that will be at, well, you can get in touch with Nunu. I am safe at winsurance.pt. If you've got any more questions about that, do ask them this evening. Excellent. I think that is everybody, isn't it? But we also have here tonight Jacqueline and Astrid from the Expats Portugal team, who are here to answer and help as well with questions and advice of how it is to be living here as expats in Portugal as well. So there's a wealth of knowledge, a great panel and a wealth of knowledge here for you this evening. Let's go to the first question then. Thank you, Heather, for this. Good morning from New Zealand. With regard to visas, what is the process if there is no Portuguese consulate or embassy in your resident country? Does that happen very often, Gilda? There can't be that many countries in the world without a Portuguese embassy, can there?
Yes, there are.
Really? Right. Okay.
Mhm.
So what happens in that eventuality?
Then you have to check what is the next jurisdiction that will take the case. In this
Okay.
case, it's going to be Australia, Canberra.
Canberra in Australia for Heather there. Yes, so you'll have to fly there for those meetings with your nearest embassy, which for New Zealanders, for Kiwis, it sounds like it will be Canberra in Australia. If you want any more clarification, Heather, do ask. Is Washington, D.C. consulate still accepting the paperwork? Let's stay with you, Gilda, by mail, or are we required to present our documents in person? Thank you, from Susie.
Now you have to go in person.
Okay, there you go. Very straightforward. Great to see you back, Gilda, says Derek, from Linda and Derek there. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, good to see you back, Gilda. And we have a question over on YouTube from Tamara. Well, hello from Torres Vedras here in Portugal. I have a cartão de residência, 5 years, and I called CEF to register my change of address, but the rep told me I do not need an appointment to change my address. Is that true? How can that be done?
As far as I know, you do need an appointment to change the address.
Okay, so in that instance,
in fact, this week they open appointments just for that, to make changes of for the resident permit, the cards, like the address and other changes.
okay, Tamara, come back to us on that. What should Tamara do? Just insist that that can be done, or what's the deal with that?
Well, I think that she can insist. If they told that, she can try and go to the next office, the next CEF office next to her, and try to explain that she was told that. But as far as I know, she will need an appointment.
All right, there you go, Tamara. Good luck with that. Staying with you then, Gilda, an EI question from Connie. I will soon have a NIF and Portuguese bank account with my current home address. And you know I'm going to ask you about bank accounts in just a moment, but that's not part of this question. Then I will sell my home and establish a virtual mailbox with new address. What possible issues may occur when I apply for a D7 if my Portuguese bank account and other financial accounts in North America have the old address on the statements? That's a really good question about tallying up all the addresses. Is that going to be a problem?
Yes, it is a good question, because it happens sometimes in the way of in between, when people are in the process of selling the house. And as I answered in the chat, it should have, when you deliver the process, you should explain this, such as in the exposition of motives, that you had the house, you sold the house, therefore some documents have this address, but now you have this new address. It's a matter of being clear and explaining it.
And be ready for that with the paper trails. Okay, thank you, Gilda, on that. Question for Sarah then. We are going to Mr. S over on YouTube. Thanks for time being, Gilda. Keep those questions coming in, folks. The folks on Zoom and the folks in YouTube, get your questions in the chat. It's the Dream Team session. A great time to ask your questions. Mr. S asks on YouTube, I wanted to open a Spartan account and they needed my US Social Security number. Why would that be, Sarah?
There's certain things that we need to check. Basically, we do due diligence on all our customers, similar to when you open a bank account, really. We're just checking that people are who they say they are. And the reason we do that is for anti-money laundering regulations. It protects us as a company and also protects our other customers.
Okay, so there you go. Just due process and due diligence with the process of opening an account, which you can do free of charge, right, Sarah?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we should issue that reminder, shouldn't we, that this process of opening the account and getting ready to change your dollars into euros, for example, shouldn't be left to the last moment in the process, because there can be things that come up that can be a little bit awkward.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the time what we spend speaking to our customers about is rightly the process of transferring the money. We see it's time and time again, unfortunately, where people don't think about how they're going to move their money once they've left their home country. So the US, for example, they fly over to Portugal and they get here, and then they suddenly need to move maybe larger sums of money, and then they find they encounter problems that their bank won't make the transfer, or maybe their bank's got limits. We have encountered customers that have, say, a limit of 70,000 US dollars every 30 days. Now, if you were buying a property, that would be really difficult. You'd need about 6 months to be transferring that money when you've got a deadline. So a lot of customers unfortunately have to fly back to make any sort of extra authorization, whether they need to fill any forms in, do they need an international card reader. We've seen customers, you know, give family members power of attorney, again, obviously who you trust, but there's things that you can do and processes and that you can put in place before you move that will make that process easier for you. Also, don't leave it to last minute, because there's still bank clearing times. Every bank's different, and until you know what they are, you know, it could be instant transfer, it could take a couple of days to clear. So if you've got a deadline to make and you're worried about meeting it, just make sure that you perhaps give yourself time to factor those in. Sometimes the bank might flag the payment until they've got more information about what's the reason for your transfer or how you've acquired the funds. I've talked about anti-money laundering regulations. It's that sort of compliance that they're doing. And we've seen customers that have used their bank and it's been flagged and it's been held up for a week. So again, the things that we do in the background to make that process easier and quicker, but there still might be bank-to-bank clearing times that you've got to bear in mind when you're making transfers.
It's not like going on holiday, is it? And then that's probably what people's benchmark is that, yeah, I'll buy my new sunglasses and my beach wear, and I'll just go and get a bit of foreign currency on the way back home from the shops. It's not as simple as that with the bigger amounts and the new accounts. So bear that in mind. Start sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Exactly. It may be that you've done small amounts and they've worked perfectly fine and they've gone really quickly, but then anything sort of really over 10,000, you may encounter, or you may see there's more issues.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah, for the time being. Let's do a little bit of Mais Habitation right now and talk to Daniel and possibly Peter on this. The controversy continues. There is now a petition, I think, when it comes to the golden visa, Daniel. People are pushing back, aren't they, with how they feel they've been treated with the golden visa. What's going on from your end of things with Mais Habitation?
Well, I do understand the investor's point of view, and I did subscribe the petition because I think it makes sense. Changing the rules halfway through the game, it's not something correct that the Portuguese government should do. So, but I think that a lot of water still needs to run under the bridge, because the law was not yet approved. It was just a proposal from the government, and the parliament will need to vote on it, and then it needs to go to the president and eventually to the constitutional court. So at the end of the day, I don't think that the law will be kept as it is or as it was proposed by the government, but we'll still need to ascertain what's the final configuration out of the law. Again, I think that the easy way to do this would be to provide a deadline for people to submit their applications for the golden visa, and this would allow investors to adapt and have enough time to just submit the processes. Having the Prime Minister having a public declaration and having this transmitted directly to the law is not a proper way to do politics or to run a country. So again, I do fully agree with that petition, and I think that at least it raises some awareness on the topic.
Okay, thank you very much. And you know, we had a little bit of a giggle, changing the subject slightly, about people thinking if they're over 65, they didn't have to do the A2. I noticed another petition has been released that is petitioning the government to excuse people of all age, not of all ages, but anyone over 75 of any mental condition. And there's a much better way of putting than that than I just did. Are you aware of that petition as well going around?
I have no idea, but that's to avoid or to waive the Portuguese exam for the Portuguese nationality.
Exactly. Over 75s. Somebody's pushing for that as well.
Well, I think that obtaining the Portuguese nationality is, although it takes quite a long time, but it's not that difficult. And what the Portuguese government is asking is that you remain in Portugal for 5 years and that you learn the language. The criteria is not that substantial. So I don't know if I do agree with that. I do agree with having an exception in the law that if for some reason you're not able to take the exam, this is for medical purposes or because you were unfortunately not educated to learn to read or write, that there should be a window of the system that people should be able to use. But just being 75 and being able to access the Portuguese nationality without having the Portuguese language exam, I don't think that I can back that up.
Fair enough. And with the petitionary process for those golden visa folks, and for this person who wants to excuse 75 and above from the A2 examination, how long do those processes take, and what are their chances, Daniel, from a legal point of view?
Which ones? The process of developing the law,
how it moves, how that process in general moves. So I imagine, like in many democracies now, you can start a petition to make a case to the government.
Oh, okay.
What's the timescale on that, and what are their
usually it's lengthy because you need, I can't remember I'm sorry, my big dog is here asking for attention. I think it's around 10,000 signatures, if my memory stands correct, that you need to have the discussion on the parliament. And sometimes parties are not too keen on having the discussion with these petitions, and they try to reschedule it to later down the line. So we do see some resistance from the, let's say, the established parties into those movements, those grassroots movements, in having those laws formed. But I would say from past experiences, 6 months to 9 months is something that is the usual norm into having something that became a petition and then it's voted in the parliament. So it's not a fast situation indeed.
And no guarantee at all. Just gets it on the table in front of the politicians, I guess. Okay, thanks for that, Daniel. Appreciate it. From your point of view, Peter van Noonen, with the Mais Habitation, all the controversy around housing, has that filtered through to the front line, as it were, where you're trying to find people property?
Yeah, yes and no. I would say yes when it comes to a lot of turmoil and a lot of questions from people asking, for example, what's next with allogement local, with short-term rentals. People want to invest, but they also want to have at least the opportunity to get some return on investment, maybe not immediately, but for the future. So there's a lot of noise and a lot of questions around the implementation of those regulations. So, on the other side, there is still a lot of demand. We see a lot of people coming to Portugal. We are getting daily questions about moving to Portugal. So from that respect, things are still very positive from our perspective, of course. So a lot of people are not scared off by those potential regulations, and things are still just raising a lot of question marks, I would say.
Yeah, more heat than light, to use that phrase. But I'm so glad to hear that the inquiries are continuing to come in and not causing too much of a problem for you there, Peter. Fantastic. Question from Barack. When we finally make the move and we're getting our money from our annuity and our social security, are we going to have to spend the rest of our life watching the exchange rate between the US dollar and the euro? Is there a better way than to do the monthly exchange? That's a great question, isn't it, Sarah?
It is a great question. I mean, the short answer is yes, you will, to a certain degree. If this is something you're going to receive ongoing for the rest of your life, then just to some extent, yes. There's a few things you can do. It depends on your situation. So I've seen over the years clients that have received like a pension transfer, and if you need that every month, then it is something that you need to obviously do monthly, because you need that money to live on, for example. And then you will have to do that. Within that, you can look at sort of fixing the rate, maybe up to sort of like a 12-month period, or maybe 2 years. You could certainly fix the rate. And then what that would do is control the cost of those payments every month. You know exactly how much you're going to be getting in euros, so that there's a guaranteed amount that you're getting every month to live on. And obviously, hopefully at that point, you're either fixing into a very good rate of exchange, or you're fixing into a rate that then isn't going to get any worse for you. Whereas I have seen some customers that maybe would consider moving it every 3 months or 12 months or every 6 months. Again, it depends on how often that you need that money, essentially. So there is things that we can do to try and fix over certain periods of time. But again, if it's for the rest of your life, it will still only be short periods that you'll be able to fix it for in the grand scheme of things. But it's certainly something that we can maybe help you watch, so that we're doing that for you and you can enjoy Portugal.
Very good. So yeah, it's one of the facts of life of migration, isn't it? When you have a two different currencies, but there are little mitigating devices that Sarah's just talked about there. Thank you for that. That's a great question, Barak. And you were also asking, as I recall, about, and it was really fascinating to get the panel off their specialist subject and onto the matter of mold and vinegar and stuff like that a couple of weeks ago. This week, I'm going to, the final question to the whole panel, and you're excused on this one, Sarah, because you don't actually live in Portugal, but which is the best way to heat a home in Portugal? And I'd love I think you can all speak to this, can't you? Certainly Daniel, Peter, Gilda and Nuno. A little bit of a advance warning there. Towards the top of the hour, Barak was wondering, is it the pellets? Is it the diesel? Is it the electricity? Your views on that. We'll not hold you down to anything, but some sort of indicative educational information on that will be really good from your own personal experience. So we'll come back to that and ask that on behalf of Barak. It's nearly past. It's a good enough time because I think Daniel's dog wants to say hello already. Let's start with you, Daniel. Who have you got with you this evening in Pet's Corner? Oh, we need you to unmute as well. Get the dog to unmute. clever boy or girl there?
Yes, this is a boy. This is a boy.
Hello.
And the other one, the big one is...
Oh, look. Fantastic. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. They're doing well, obviously, and keen for Daddy to finish and take them for a walk maybe this evening.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Yeah. A bit later than usual, possibly, with you being here tonight. So thank you very much. Gilda, Mandela, how is he, the little fellow?
Well, he was, I was on vacation and he's a little upset.
Yes.
And he was just crying. Now he stopped.
It's never good news, Gilda.
Yeah,
when you go on vacation, is it? So
he's a very problematic dog.
Yes, he is special, isn't he? Sensitive as well.
Very sensitive, very sensitive.
But he's okay, and he hasn't eaten any socks, pastel donata socks or whatever, just recently. He's in good shape, just a little bit sulky.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you bring him a present? Did you bring him a present back from your holiday?
No, I didn't.
Oh, tough love. Okay, fair enough. Peter's dog is downstairs, I think, who we met for the first time last week.
Yeah.
No
dog here with me. So she's our little dog is with Alice tonight. So she doesn't have any airtime tonight, Carl.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe next week.
People won't forgive me. That's why I'm asking. People will not forgive me. Certainly if we don't find out how Mandela is. And it's expanded in recent weeks to finding out how everybody else's pets are. You're a long way from your cats, Nuno, this evening. I think they're back in Lisbon, aren't they?
Yeah. They are not here with me, my cats. The only cat I have, it's my wife, so my tiger, but she left for smoking.
The big cat is with you tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Excellent.
My beautiful wife.
Wonderful. Excellent. I'm sure she'll be pleased about that. Sarah, do you have a pet to declare?
No, I don't. I do want a dog, but what we have been doing recently is there's a greyhound rescue centre near us, and we've been volunteering and going to walk them on a weekend.
Are you enjoying that?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoying
that's
that.
How they'll get,
the problem is every time I leave, I want to adopt it, and take it home.
They know that. They know that at the Greyhound Centre there. So thank you, everybody. We need to move on and ask the dream team those important questions about migrating to Portugal.
Well, Carl, have you seen Barack's dog? You haven't seen Barack's dog. He had a humongous, really big dog.
We've got audience. No, because if we feature all the audience pets as well, there's going to be no space for migration questions. Do appreciate it, everybody, and thank you. Please display your dogs certainly in your Zoom cameras, but I can't go around everybody. Unless we make this twice as long, possibly. And Jerry had an idea for that last week. Thank you very much. That's Pets Corner for this week. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Let's go to Bling. Somebody called Bling in the Zoom chat. Not good for VFS appointments. Should I go for a reunification, or D7? This is somebody who has an elderly Portuguese mother originally, but that's another story altogether, I think, proving the Portuguese connection. What to do when you've got an elderly relative, possibly with disabilities, and it's hard to get them to the appointments, Gilda? How can you approach that?
Well, if it's hard to get to the appointments and they do want to bring her to Portugal, they need to get her on the plane and take care of the process here.
Okay. All right. So that's an interesting, just go for it.
Yeah.
Come to Portugal. Okay, there you go. You have been told by the Queen of Visas. That's the plan there, Bling. Okay, thank you, Anissa, for your picture on Zoom. I think there's going to be more of these. It's really nice and heartwarming. Nothing to do with migration, although some of these furry family members will, of course, be making the journey too. And yes, Gail, whiskey was not what Michael was drinking during the recent webinar. That's the name of his dog. Yes, we have to scotch, pardon the pun, those scurrilous rumors about Michael drinking whiskey during the webinar. That's the name of his dog. Okay, let's go to YouTube then. Thank you very much, Edith. Hello, Migration Dream Team. Carl and Gilda, my husband and I are ready to start working with Casa Portuguesa to find an apartment for the D7 visa. I will send you an email at this moment. So a prompt there, not necessarily a question, but just a reminder, and you can expect an email from Edith with Casa Portuguesa. We did mention them briefly. Is that helping a lot of people with their anxiety in finding a property, Gilda, your Casa Portuguesa brainchild?
Yes, it is. It is, but I'm a little bit behind on the emails. Maybe.
Okay,
that's fine.
Fair enough. Edith, bear that in mind, but that will take a lot of stress. The prospective landlords, landladies will hear from a Portuguese person, which will help the process go a lot better in securing you your property. We'll stay with you, Gilda, from a question from Tom Smith. Good evening, Tom. Question for you, Gilda. When is the peak season? Well, this is a good one for visa applications, i.e. when would we most likely encounter processing delays? So there are microclimates, aren't there, within each of the countries? But generally speaking, when do most people start thinking about moving to Portugal? When is that surge?
Well, there are many people that start thinking about that in January. When the year starts, they want to start the process, in the new year, and then some people want to move for the summer, before the summer, like in June.
Yes.
And then people with kids want to move in September.
Yeah, and some people want their first Christmas in Portugal, no doubt.
Yeah, but those are the most.
There you go, Tom. Peak season's right there for you, depending on your demographic, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. Thank you, Gilda. Question for Sarah now. Thanks for the time being, Gilda. I've got a question for Sarah. Are the monies deposited, this is from Shaheen, with Spartan insured like any bank? And if so, according to which jurisdiction and amount? Good question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in certain countries, you do have to have certain licenses. So, for example, in UK, we have to be authorized and regulated by the FCA. And then in America, it's with FinCEN, and we have the money transmitter licenses in each state, so we can deal with Americans that are living in America. Also, the money is in safeguarded accounts, so they're completely separate from our assets, but also they are protected. So because of the way that they're safeguarded, it means that all of your money would be returned if anything should happen to us as a company.
There you go. For you there, that was for Shaheen. Any more questions about Spartan and your money when it's being transferred? Pop them in the chat. Yolanda is here with us. Hi from Phoenix, Arizona. Great to see you, Yolanda. And we'll stay with you, Sarah, from Jim. Any plans to allow a way to lock in a rate when you don't have an amount or time frame of when a funds transfer will be needed? You do that, don't you?
Yeah, so there's two things. There's two ways of doing it. One is that you can buy your euros in advance of needing any payments. So if you haven't got a specific deadline, we can hold the euros on account for you free of charge. If you don't have a Portuguese account open, or you don't have a beneficiary account or end destination that you want the money to be sent to. So that's a way of locking the rate, because essentially then you bought your euros up front. The other option is, if you didn't have all the money available and you wanted to do that, we can fix the rate, but ideally you would need a deadline for that. So for example, if probably more for a property purchase, if you knew you were going to purchase a property, completion can take 6 to 8 weeks or more, depending on obviously what's happening, then you could fix the rate for the end of your completion date. For example, you pay us 10% deposit. It's not a cost or a charge, but that allows us to lock the rate, because we're actually as a company buying those euros up front for you. And then when you complete, you pay the 90%, and we send all the euros out to the beneficiary at that point. If your completion date does change, we're able to roll that contract on. But as I said, ideally, you kind of need to have a rough idea of a time frame for that kind of contract. But if you didn't, and you just wanted to take advantage of the rate or make sure it wasn't going to cost you any more, you can buy the euros up front, and we can hold them on account for you.
There you go, Jim. Let's stay with you, Sarah. US Social Security will deposit directly into a Portuguese bank account, but you'll have to watch the exchange rate. People really do have to watch bank exchange rates, don't they, Sarah? I'm sure you've got a comment on that.
Absolutely. I mean, we generally say we see about a 3 to 4% difference between what the bank can offer and what we can offer, but we've seen more extremes. So we have seen a US bank charge somebody 9% and they were transferring $1 million. We spoke to a customer that he moved his money with Bank of America last year, and they charged him 5%. So it is always worthwhile double checking, and don't assume that you're going to be getting a good rate. They may say, oh, there's no transfer fees, which may be the case, but it's actually what they're charging you on the actual conversion between US dollars and euros.
Well, I think somebody in the audience just clutched their heart at 9% on $1 million there. I saw some visible shock in there. I think those bankers went out for lunch that day on that deal, didn't they? Okay, thank you for that, Sarah. Really good. Going back to the language thing, John Gibson is asking, this is over on YouTube, are there language courses that satisfy the language requirement for citizenship? There are, aren't there? Daniel, you can go to your Social Security office, get your number, and then enroll in a local course.
There are indeed. You do have several associations in Portugal that you can enroll, and they do provide Portuguese courses. Usually they're crash courses for 4 or 5 months, and they are after work time, so from 6 in the evening to 10 in the evening. To facilitate people that are living in Portugal, working in Portugal. And the perception that we have is that if you do attend to the classes, if you do participate, you will end up passing with flying colors. And the perception that people that already done that those courses do convey is that it's easy or easier than to do the exam, the Portuguese exam, because those crash courses, as long as you are approved, you'll have basically the same equivalent, or you'll have the equivalent of having the exam passed in your hand. So doing the course and being approved, or doing the exam and being approved, is exactly the same thing. So indeed, this is a route that I do advise. The course needs to be certified and to be approved by the ministry, so it has the equivalence to the exam. But if the applicant is indeed living in Portugal, this is something that I would definitely consider.
And it's very good, isn't it, that it's attendance based? So you
Correct.
do, by attending, you get the certificate, which might come as
Well,
a
it's
relief.
not by attending. If you attend, but if you don't do the exercises, if you don't show any interest, you will end up flunking and
fair enough.
failing.
Yes, but you won't have
But-
to show up for an examination, will you? As
Correct. That's it. And the perception that it is conveyed is, as long as you do show interest and you participate with your colleagues and with the teacher will end up approving you. That's basically what was conveyed.
Daniel, is it true as well that even some local authorities, councils, actually pay people to do the course as well, give them a little stipend for refreshments and so on?
Yeah, that's a reality, and I think it's something good because especially in people that come to Portugal and they need to work. So we're not talking about pensioners. We're talking about people that come to Portugal and need to work, and sometimes they don't have enough money to pay for the Portuguese courses. Having the Portuguese government and municipalities paying for it, it does make sense, because if you do speak the language, you can get a better job, you can get better qualifications, you can eventually start studying again. So just being able to overcome the language barrier is something relevant and important, and a big stepping stone into the integration of any immigrant in the country. If on the other side you are an expat, that you have your retirement and you don't need to work, the language barrier doesn't affect you as much. But for people in working age and that don't have the means to support themselves in terms of paying a course out of their own pocket, indeed municipalities do step in, and I think it's a great measure, to be honest.
It's a great measure, really good, excellent stuff. Good to know about that. I completely agree with you. Please provide the courses that are available for language, says Denise. Now, it does vary, I think, around the country, what's available and when it's available. And as I understand it, they run the courses when they have the capacity, when there's a certain number of people.
Correct.
Okay.
And it does vary from place to place where you're living. In Lisbon, at least I can recommend one association. Do drop me an email and I will direct you in the correct direction. For other places in the country, to be honest, I don't know. But at least in Lisbon, I can provide one association that is doing this.
That's really kind of you, Daniel. Really appreciate that. And what I would recommend, Denise, is to go to the Expats Portugal forum. And in there, you will find out what people are doing locally, and they'll be able to tell you if a course is coming up, if they've got enough people, and whether, of course, they'll give you something for a little bit of a refreshment in the evening as well, in the way that Daniel has described. James adds, but you have to have your residency card in order to take the courses. You do, don't you? And you need your social security number, I think, as well.
Well, to be honest, Social Security, I'm not 100% sure, but probably it's something that they will request, but it's not that easy once you have your residency permit in NIF. Obtaining the Social Security number is something relatively easy for someone that lives in Portugal. So I don't think that's a big barrier of entry to have the course done, to be honest.
Great. Okay. And Denise, this might be pushing it. Please advise if you can do the courses in your own country before migrating. The Portuguese government won't offer that, and they won't be doing anything by Zoom. But there are other ways of learning the Portuguese language, and of course, check out the business directory at Expats Portugal for courses that are available. And it's one of the perks for premium membership as well. I don't know, Astrid I might want to say something about that at some point during the call this evening. Thanks, Carl. I have a NIF and a bank account. Would I be able to do these courses? Not until you get here. And as James says, and I think as Daniel agrees, you need to be a resident and make it your first priority when you get here, Denise. And maybe do an online course in the meantime as a bit of a primer. Cheers, Daniel. Appreciate that. Let's go back to Gilda. And there was a question from Kinda. I'm waiting for my card for over 3 months now. That will be a residency card, won't it? I went to the finances to change my address, but they said I need the residency card in order to do so. Wow, a vicious cycle there. What should I do? Did I miss the 60 days deadline? What happens in this instance, Gilda?
There is a lot of misinformation with the tax authorities and with the migration authorities.
Yeah.
Because the tax authorities say that people should change their address in the next 6 months when they arrive into Portugal. But when people try to do that, they go to the tax office and they say, no, you cannot do that unless you have your residence permit. And this can cause you many trouble. What I suggest is that this person can try to do through the portal with the paper showing that she already went to the SEF, and with the rental agreement. And that's it, showing that she has a place to stay and she has the intention to stay for more than 6 months in Portugal.
Okay. All right. So that there is a lot of misinformation, isn't there? Thank you for clarifying there, Gilda.
Yes.
And of course, you can call Gilda and team if you want further clarification on that, Kinda. It sounds very frustrating when you get cancelled out like that and in a virtual loop. Thanks, Gilda. Let's stay with you. I'm hoping to move to Portugal in 2 years, and we'll have a state pension and a government pension. Will I need to transfer them to Portugal? And if so, will I have to pay tax on them? Don't think you can transfer them, can you? But it's 10%. Daniel might want to chip in as well. 10% on foreign pensions, isn't it? Tax payable?
Yes, it is 10%.
10%.
As soon as they become tax residents.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what you mean, Leslie, about, I thought a state pension and a government pension were the same thing. Leslie, perhaps you can give us more information there and we'll see what we can do to help you. Question from Ubius here. Antonio F, Nubianet, and Ubi.
But I'm sorry. We did not clarify the whole question there.
Oh, what, of transferring pensions?
Yes, they don't need to transfer it every month. Okay,
I'm not sure what
they just need to show.
Yeah.
To get the visa, they need to show that they have that steady income every month.
Okay, all right. That's perhaps what Leslie means there. Thank you, Gilda.
Okay, and then if they have money, or if they can transfer like yearly or every 6 months, that will work.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Leslie, thank you for asking the question. Brilliant answer, Gilda. From Antonio F, Nubianet, Ubi are also in the YouTube chat. A question here. I don't think this is for us. What do you get when you cross a kiwi with a kangaroo? That's what happens when you have too many browsers open. I don't think that was for us. Okay. Mazen, guessing territory. I know. Does the team think I'll be able to renew my golden visa in October? Yeah, crystal ball, guessing territory. What would you say, Gilda and Daniel, on that renewal of golden visa in October?
Well, I would say it's possible. What the government is putting forward in terms of the renewal of the golden visa is the person is living in Portugal, so they are forcing the applicant to live in Portugal, or the applicant needs to put the house in the rental market. So if that person has a golden visa connected with a property, the government wants to indeed force the applicant to put the property on the rental market. But this, at the end of the day, doesn't make any sense, because it changes the rules of the game midway. And I do highly doubt that this measure is constitutional, because the Portuguese state clearly indicates the applicants that they need to come to Portugal 7 days per year. And at the same time is forcing the applicant to put their own property, the house, on the long-term rental market. So what basically the Portuguese government is trying to push forward is that the applicant needs to have a house in Portugal to have the golden visa, but is pushing the house for the long-term rental market and forcing the applicant to come and live in a hotel on the 7 days that he needs to be in Portugal for the renewal. So things don't add up. And I think that this will end up in not being approved in that regard, in that people will be able to renew their golden visas as they kept renewing these past years, because it's just adding a new rule that people were not expecting. And once you do apply for the golden visa, you sign a term of responsibility stating that you will keep the investment in Portugal for the next 5 years. So the applicant is making a commitment of not selling the property. So on the other spectrum, the government should make a commitment not to change the rules and affect the application of someone, because if a golden visa applicant knew about this eventual necessity of putting the house in the long-term rental market, he could indeed think if it was worthwhile to do the application or not. Now, just changing the rule midway, it doesn't allow people to do that calculus and to see if it's worthwhile to request the golden visa and renew it. So I don't think it will go forward, but I think that's the worst case scenario that I do foresee for someone that has already the golden visa, and that is doing the renewal. And for the time being, the good news is that the renewals are done automatically via the web portal. So I don't know how this will be in October, if they will end up not having automatic renewals, but at the current moment, the renewal procedure is all done electronic, and it's somewhat of a speedy process. So this may be the case in this next October. Let's wait and see.
Great answer there. Yes, it is guessing territory and crystal ball territory, but an excellent answer from Daniel nonetheless there. I don't know if you've got an answer for this one, Daniel. Great question from Pepe. If carrying hard assets to Portugal, how much are you allowed to carry? Is there a custom charge coming from the UK? That's on carrying gold and silver. What are the limits for coming into the country? Gilda might know.
Well, to be honest, I don't know, but I would, at least the rules in money, you can bring 10K maximum. So at least that's the ballpark of that I would put the gold situation. More than that, I wouldn't risk it, because that will get stuck in customs for sure.
Oh, really? Okay, yes. And for gold and silver, presumably they get their weighing scales out to see if it's 10K. 10K or not. Interesting situation at the airport. Fantastic. We're going to answer the question about energy as we conclude in about 7 minutes time, but there are a few more questions, so let's take these and see what we can do. Thank you, Antonio F, for holding a Portuguese language workshop inside the YouTube chat as well, doing great work over there. Joel Rodriguez, hi Gilda, any update on the job seekers visa reaching out from India?
Yeah, the job seeker visa, it's working. The only problem with India is trying to find a vacancy. Otherwise, it is working.
Okay, and from a bit of feedback from a UK person, job seekers visa, CEF don't have a clue what they're doing. So it's pretty messy with the job seekers visa, by the sound of it, on the front lines, Gilda.
Well, I don't know, but from our experience, I don't know if that people went alone or not, but from our experience, with the people that we went and they found a job with the contract, they got the resident permit.
Great. Okay, so keep focusing on finding the job is the main thing, isn't it? And
yes.
satisfying that requirement. Okay, great. Dottie, I keep seeing conflicting info on taxation. You will. Especially in social media, with the international agreement between the US and Portugal regarding no double taxation, and since they'll be paying US and Canada taxes on income, will our social security payments and transfers or referral fee income be taxed again in Portugal or not? Can you help with that, either Gilda or Daniel, on that one?
Well, this depends a lot if the pension comes from a public authority or not. That's the first situation that needs to be accounted for. So there's not a clear, straightforward answer on this, and there's a lot of misinformation. So my guess is probably drop us an email so we can try to provide better guidance on that. But double taxation, it will not exist because of the agreement between Portugal and the US. What may happen is that taxation is paid in the US, and if the taxation in Portugal is higher, let's say that in the US you're paying 20%, and in Portugal you ended up paying 30%. You pay the 10% difference here. So you won't get double taxed, but you may get taxed in Portugal on the difference between what you would be taxed in the US and what you would be taxed in Portugal. This is in broader general terms, but each case, this varies quite a lot, and that's why you do see conflicting information in the internet. Feel free to drop us an email, Dottie, and we'll try to assist, okay?
Oh, Daniel, thank you. That's brilliant. And it was California, not Canada. Silly me, US and Canada. But I don't think it makes a big difference there. I still think it's worth having a chat with Daniel. Okay, do you have to have the COVID vaccine as part of the application? Sunflower is asking. That's no longer a requirement, is it, for anything in Portugal now? So that's a quickie there from Sunflower. Patrick letting us know, hello, everybody, coming soon, counting down to coming to Portugal. Now, when here and heating one's home finally. Oh, no, Mr. S. We'll come back to the heating in just a moment. Gilda, if I enter Germany with my D7 and then fly to the UK and then into Lisbon, have I used my 2 entries? Another quickie there. Nodding.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And Daniel was nodding as well. Okay, that's that for Mr. S there. Heating. Let's go to Nunu first. It's been a quiet one for you this evening, Nunu, but I know you'll have something to say about this as somebody who's in creating a home. What do you think is the best and most efficient and cost-effective way of heating a home in Portugal? And we'll need to unmute you. I can't not have you unmuted with this golden information here.
I mean.
Okay, good.
So sorry. So I believe that before starting thinking on heating, is start thinking on isolating.
Good point.
So the first point is isolation. The second about heating, it really depends on which is the state of the property. But if you are if you can renovate from the scratch, so I strongly recommend heating the floor. I don't remember the name even in Portuguese, so sorry for that.
We get it. Underfloor heating.
Yeah, it's better, and you have through water, hydraulic or electricity. Water is the best because it has bump power.
Oh, okay.
Bomba de calor, heat bomb heater. So start for isolating and then the heat the floor.
Okay,
should be the best.
And if you had to choose between electricity, diesel, and pellets, which would you go for?
You are asking me?
Yes.
I'm an electricity guy. You know that.
Okay, electricity guy. Electricity for Nunu. Thank you for that, Nunu. Really helpful stuff. Let's ask Gilda about that. What's your favorite approach to heating, Gilda? What would you recommend to people? Or from your own experience? She's smiling.
Fireplace.
Brilliant answer. A fireplace. A real fire.
Yes.
Okay. Now, clearly, that's not necessarily efficient, but it's really beautiful, isn't it? The dog Mandela likes to curl up, I suspect, in front of your fireplace with your cut wood. What's it called? Is it lenha? What's the Portuguese word?
Lenha.
Lenha. The cut wood, the seasoned wood, roasting on the open fire in the corner there. That's Gilda's favorite from an aesthetic point of view, I think.
No, yeah, it's static, but it should be central heating.
Central heating powered by what? Diesel or pellets? Or a back boiler on the fire?
No, that's too much for me.
Okay, let's move on. I could tell from the look on your face that I was pushing you too far after the open fireplace there. But fair, you and me both love an open fire. Peter, what's your recommendation? Because you'll be showing people houses and they'll be thinking, how much am I going to pay to heat this place? What do you tend to say to people?
Yeah, it really depends on the house. And Nunu made a very good point on the installation, of course, but it really depends on what type of housing. If it's a quinta in the middle of nowhere, then you can opt for example, a heat pump, which is very good for heating, under floor heating, but also for central heating. And you can run them as well with solar panels. So you can have some more choices for installation heating. Also, if you are in an area like we are, where there's a lot of wood, then you can also opt for a caldeira de leña, which is a big wood burner. So it's not a wood burner that you would install in your living room, but it's just a backup. It's a kind of an industrial solution. It's very efficient if you have a lot of leña, if you have a lot of wood, which you can get very cheap if you're living in a forest like we are, of course. But if you're not, then yeah, you're more reliable on, for example, solar panels. And also for what I love to have is the hot water heating via not photovoltaic panels but solar panels, right? So
Okay.
it's really good. So you can opt for different solutions and also make a mix of it. But yeah, of course, it also has to do a bit with an investment, because
Yeah.
those solutions, they are, I'm not saying they are very expensive, but think about 5 till 10K investment up front, but then every month you will of course save a lot of money, because you're saving a lot in energy. Would not opt anymore for diesel for obvious reasons, I think. It's very expensive. It's not clean. It's also those diesel generators, or these diesel heaters, I should say, are a bit noisy, and the emission, of course, is not what we are looking for anymore.
That's excellent.
So,
Thank you, Peter.
various.
Very good. And if you are not investing, it will be electricity, probably, won't it? If you're not going to be able to, front it up with some investment, you'll be joining the rest of us who are swelling EDP's profits here in Portugal. Thank you for that. And that mixed approach there, very good. And from a Boy Scout perspective, of course, it's good to have a mixture so that you've got some backup when you're not entirely dependent on, for example, wood pellets, where people were dependent on wood pellets and they found the price of them double, I think, over the last year or so. Finally, with you then, Daniel, as a Lisboeta, somebody who lives in the city or near it, certainly, what's your approach?
Well, my approach is air conditioning at home, but what I would like to have is something that Peter just said. It's a big wood burner in the garage that would then circulate the water inside the house, because it's indeed the cheapest way to heat up a property in Portugal, because wood is cheap. Even living, I don't live in the city, but I do live really nearby the city. But there's a lot of places that live wood that sell wood in the vicinity. So basically, if you live in the city and you're able to install a heat pump, that's probably the best scenario, because it's quite efficient. If you live in a mixed situation like myself, you do have those big wood burning stoves that you can put in the garage. Pellets, they're quite clean and convenient, but the problem, as you said, is the fluctuation in price. So they are actually a good solution, because they provide a really clean burn. But in the past year, the fluctuation in price made them not so tempting as they were 2 or 3 years ago. Electricity is not that efficient unless you have a heat pump, and air conditionings are not so efficient in heating a property, but it's the go-to solution that the majority of people have, as I do have it here in my home.
Interesting. And to clarify, yeah, the air conditioners produce both hot and cold air.
Correct.
They're a combi, aren't they? Which is a pretty good system in many ways. But great to hear all your input there. Thank you, panel, for that. Sarah was excused that, of course, not living here in Portugal, just enjoying the free heating at the Airbnb or the hotel when she comes over here. That's the best way to do it, isn't it? Well, it's paid for in the price of your stay. Sarah, thank you so much. Ladies first. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here tonight. Gilda, thank you very much for being here, the queen of the visas. Daniel, thanks so much. Nuno as well. And Peter, all of you, the Dream Team, you've been fabulous this evening. I don't know if Astrid or Jacqueline would like to conclude the session tonight. I'm sorry to have kept you that extra 6 minutes, everybody.
That's okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. As you know, it's a regular Thursday night gig, so come again next week. As I haven't mentioned to this group, but next Thursday at 7:30, we've got a car ownership and driver's license exchange webinar. If you want to find out more details about that, please visit our website at expatsportugal.com. I was about to put AU there, but no, I'm not in Australia. Also, if you're joining us and you're not a premium member, please sign up and help us make these events continue. So yeah, please join.
Thank you, Astrid. Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, Jacqueline. Enjoy the rest of your quinta-feira, your